Minu, you can start. This live is okay.
Yes, sir. A very good morning, one and all. Myself, Meenu Jos Tekkan, Assistant Professor from Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department. It's a wonderful day, and I feel privileged to extend my greetings on behalf of Universal Engineering College towards all joined here for the webinar on Challenges in Environmental Pollutants and Control, organized by the Departments of Civil Engineering and Electrical and Electronics Engineering. Thank you all for joining us. Prayer is not asking. Prayer is putting oneself in the hands of God. Time spent in prayer is never wasted. Our prayer do make a difference. I request the gathering to remain silent for seeking the blessings of Almighty. Thank you all. To welcome is to show honor. To welcome is to establish integrity. I invite Ms. Minsha TM, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, for welcome address. Ms.
Am I audible?
Yes, Ms.
Okay. Respected principal, a resource person, teachers, and my dear students, a warm good morning to one and all. I'm extremely overwhelmed to get this opportunity to welcome you all to this webinar. I take this opportunity to extend gratitude on behalf of all to our respected principal, Dr. Joski Jacob, sir, for granting us permission to conduct this webinar. I welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
It's an honor for me to welcome our resource person, Mr. Chandrajit AV, CEO of Wimpe Laboratories, on behalf of Universal Engineering College. Thank you for taking out time for all of us from your busy schedule to share your thoughts with us. Once again, I welcome you, sir, to this webinar.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome Mrs. Bindumol ma'am, HOD Department of Civil Engineering, and Mrs. Remya ma'am, HOD Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, who have constantly supported and motivated us. Welcome both of you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Next, I would like to welcome all the faculty members and students who have joined us today for this webinar session. Once again, welcoming you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Now, it's my privilege to invite our respected principal, Dr. Joski Jacob, for presidential address.
University. It's like Universal Engineering College. And Chandra sir is a host to speak.
Jos, sir.
Yes, okay. Yeah, good morning, all. Respected chief guest of the day, Mr. Chandrajit, sir, and the guests who are attending this webinar, my dear HODs, my dear colleagues, and my dear students. We are delighted to have the presence of Chandrajit sir. He is an eminent personality. He is a CEO of and managing director of Wimpe's lab, and many engineers are working under him. He has the research lab also, certification lab also. So many facilities are there. So I'm sure that today he will share his experience and his thoughts also. That will give an insight to our faculty members as well as students. So once again, I would like to thank Chandrajit sir for your valuable time with us. And okay, over to the panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. A man with great vision and mission, an icon for hard work, and has crossed the boundaries of excellence with his great spirit towards profession. Our resource person of the day, Mr. Chandrajit AV, CEO of Wimpe Laboratories, Wimpe Specialty Chemicals, Biocare Environmental Service. His academic qualifications include MSc Chemistry, MPhil, PGDM, MBA, and he is a research scholar. His core skills include food safety speaker, treatment specialist, research and development, lead auditor for ISO standards, and so on. He managed business in ME, Caspian region, Africa, and South America. We are greatly honored to have you, sir. Expecting the session to be very informative to our dear participants and wishing great success, I am handing over to Mr. Chandrajit AV. Over to you, sir.
Wow, good morning, everyone. I would like to congratulate the entire management team, directors, principals, faculty members, and students of Universal Engineering College for giving me such a wonderful opportunity to discuss some of the challenges of environmental pollution and its control. I have seen that a number of viewers joined in Zoom, and many of the attendees are removed. Probably I share the panelist link. I don't know, one of my students also asked me just now about how to join in the platform. However, I would like to take this opportunity to discuss. It's not a training session. I don't want to consider it as a training session, but probably it is a GD where we can discuss some of the challenges and some of the control measures where we can implement. I have seen that a number of presentations in my last 23 years of career, and I have done it in a couple of presentations or conferences in India, Far East, Gulf countries, and Europe. But East or West, I have seen that people are really worried about the environment. Some of the extra sounds are coming. Admin can mute all others, please. Thank you. Environment is a natural world where we all live. I think you can just mute others. Thank you. Environment is a natural world where we all live. There is no limit or restriction of this concept, but each country introduced their own laws. For example, in USA, there is a specific regulation called UACPA, Environmental Protection Act. And EU Article 91 says about the laws and regulations in European countries. In India, we are also very strong in regulations. The Constitutional Act 4A clearly says about different laws and regulations about the environmental pollution control. We introduced 1974 Water and Prevention Control Act and 1981 about the air, and complete the latest regulation in 1986 says about the Environmental Protection Act. So apart from these, in 2010, there is a specific law introduced by Indian government says about Natural Tribunal Act in 2010. So all these talks about different types of pollutants and its control, standards, and specifications. So today, we are going to discuss about various aspects of the pollutants and its impact on our daily life. That is more important, right? If there is a law and regulation in place, how it's going to be affecting our daily life. This is very important. So I would like to take you a small tour later through about the pollutants and its control. Now, what are the factors influencing the pollution? A few steps probably our young generation can do for our society. I have seen that Universal Engineering College having very active, young, charming students who can contribute many things for our society. I do understand that you have electronics and communication, electronics and electrical, and computer science, mechanical engineering, civil engineering. All these engineering students can contribute many things for our society. All these departments are doing many things in our living world. How we can contribute? What steps or measures that we can take over for our next generation? That is what I would like to take it as a discussion point today. And I would like to appreciate students of Universal Engineering College who introduced cash counter sanitizer. Same way, you can do many things for your society in terms of environmental pollution. So I don't want to talk more about further the introduction part. Let me go through a small presentation from my side to talk more about environmental pollutants and its control. We all understood about what are pollutants, right? I would like to take you through a small video to understand. Odisa, Dr. Odisa, audible? Dr. Jose, is it audible?
Audio, no, sir, please.
1 second.
Yeah.
Just 1 second, I'll try.
So while sharing, there is one option, optimize that audio.
Is it okay now?
Pollution.
Is it okay
What
now,
comes
sir?
to your mind? Some people
It's
might
okay, sir.
immediately
Okay,
think of
sir.
factories spewing fumes into the sky and creating air pollution that can make it hard to breathe. Others might think of pipelines spilling oils into rivers, causing water pollution that contaminates drinking water. With societal advancement, the quality of environment has been continuously degrading because of pollution. In this video, we will discuss the different types of pollution. Pollution is an undesirable change in the physical, chemical, or biological characteristics of air, land, water, and soil. While agents that bring about such an undesirable change are called pollutants. The major form of pollution include air, water, and land. In recent times, noise, light, and plastic pollution are also garnering huge attention from the environmentalists. Let's start with air pollution. It is the most prevalent and dangerous form of pollution and caused mainly due to chimneys, factories, vehicles, or something as common as burning of wood. The release of sulfur dioxide and other greenhouse gases into the air causes global warming and has the capacity to cause acid rain. Besides this, air pollution causes asthma, bronchitis, and the most dangerous lung cancer, especially in the metro cities. Next type is water pollution. This kind of pollution essentially means the contamination of the physical, chemical, and biological properties of water. Water pollution is mainly caused due to waste domestic water, industrial water effluents, sewage, etc. Water pollution not only harms the aquatic beings, but it also contaminates the entire food chain by severely affecting humans dependent on these. Waterborne diseases like cholera, diarrhea have also increased in all polluted places. Let's move on to soil and noise pollution. Soil pollution is also known as land pollution. This occurs due to the use of insecticides and pesticides and release of industrial waste and mining. Deforestation also exploits the soil since plants can't grow properly. They can't hold the soil, and this leads to soil erosion. Noise pollution is caused when a noise which is of higher intensity than 85 decibels reaches our bare ears. It may
No. Okay.
lead to psychological problems like stress and hypertension. Radioactive pollution is also considered one of the most dangerous types of pollution because of its permanent effects. Radioactive pollution is caused by dumping of solid and liquid radioactive wastes and underwater nuclear weapon testing and explosions. It can cause skin cancer, blood cancer, infertility due to exposure, birth defects and blindness. It has the ability to permanently change soil, air and water. In order to control environmental pollution, the Government of India has passed the Environment Protection Act 1986 to protect and improve the quality of our environment. We should also help to protect our environment.
This is the point which I would like to This is the point which I would like to highlight. Basically, we have to do something for our society as well. Now, what are the types of pollutions? That is what I would like to take you through a quick tour about different types of pollution, which I explained in the video. The main one which we talk about, air pollution, then the water pollution, then the land contamination like soil pollution, and noise and radioactive pollution. It's all really affecting the human beings. You can see in the picture that different type of pollution, how it is affecting our life. So control pollution is very important. Before control pollution, let us look at what is called pollution and that is how it is affecting our daily life. Now, when we talk about air pollutions, there are two different types of pollutions. Primarily, it's called particulate matter. That is, even particulate matter, we can call it as different types. There are three different types of particulate matter in our daily life, which we are seeing. Many of us heard about in Delhi because of the pollution, very famous. Nevertheless, our Kochi is very close to the contaminants level of PM. PM is particulate matter we categorize into PM10, 2.5, and PM1. What is called PM10? PM10 is the particulate matter which is size of 10 microns. And less than 10 microns, it may go up to our lungs. That is very dangerous, right? Less than PM2, 2.5, which is really high risk. Just imagine a human hair size is 70 microns and we are talking about 2.5. So how many multiples? 30 PM 2.5 equal to a size of a human hair. So it may go up to a different level. In 2015 studies in Delhi, it's showing that high heart patients, cardiovascular issues because of the PM1, particulate matter less than 1 micron size. PM1 can lead up to many health issues, including premature birth and effect of fetal development. So particulate matter is also, it's a solid air pollutant, but it's giving a lot of health impact in our daily life. Same way, carbon monoxide, we all know that the significant impact on carbon monoxide in our daily life. NOx and SOx is, NOx means like, it's a nitrogen oxide. So normally we all are using the vehicles. So the diesel vehicle normally produce or that pollute the environment through NOx. NOx, nitrogen oxide, which combine and produce nitrogen oxides. And SOx is like, sulfur oxides. Most of the industries, for example, in Cochin, we could find a lot of industries there which delivered a lot of SOx. What is happening in sulfur oxides, which gone through the stack, which in contact with water, then it produces sulfuric acid. And VOCs are volatile organic compounds, which is highly dangerous to our human health, which we have seen in different industries. VOCs, recently, a lot of talks about green building regulations. I am going to discuss later in stage about green building regulations to control in VOCs. Many of the paint companies in India introduced the advertisement called about less VOC content in the paints. So let's talk about later in my presentation about it. And secondary sources are different type of acids produced in air pollutants. And what are the nature of air pollutants? Mostly there is solids, liquids, and gases. Solids are like a particulate matter, hydrocarbons, and aromatic, that is organic compounds, which is really danger to the human health. And liquids are smoke, soot, fly ash, dust, mist, fumes, and acids, which comes into acids are there in organic forms and inorganic form. Both are danger to human health. Not only human health, it's danger for all the living organisms. And what about gases? As I mentioned earlier, sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, and carbon dioxide are the critical dangerous gases in air pollutants. As I mentioned earlier, it all makes a lot of adverse effect on our daily life, like health problems, and not only for the humans, it's really affect our livestock. I have seen that a lot of agro farms in South India, which all affect, really impact on our environmental assessment and impact a lot of their lifestyles. A lot of toxic substances like arsenics and some of the high level of fluorides also affecting the livestock in agro farms. And we all believe that organic products are there. I have seen that a lot of people move into vegetarians and vegans, right? So vegans or vegetarians having these type of organic foods, but what about if it is polluted? So it's not going to be no more organic if it is polluted. And it makes a lot of material damage in our daily life. For example, structural metals and coatings and paints and fabrics and weather impact. And effect on climate that we all understood or maybe heard about, ozone depletion or the acid rains, etc. Right? And if you look at the studies in India, especially in the overall India, the studies in 2015, which is showing that 52% of the pollutants are coming from the different type of industries, and 27% which is coming from the vehicle pollutions, and 10% which is coming from the different chemicals what we are using for agriculture purpose, especially pesticides or insecticides, etc. Rest all are very minute quantity, but many of the consumer and commercial products. Uh, we found that some of the studies showing that even the toys makes a lot of VOCs. We are buying Chinese products. I don't want to mention any country's name, but I found that a lot of reusable plastic material used for producing the toys, and which gives a huge impact on our daily life. And what our air pollution how we can control. Here I want our student support to use some of the techniques which we can control air pollutions. We can use different type of devices and different types of effluent control, but especially I would like to take you to 6 different techniques to control the air pollution, which we call it as mechanical collectors. For example, gravity settling chamber or cyclone separator, or electrostatic precipitations, and filters, and scrubbers, adsorbers, or absorbers. These are the major different type of techniques what we can utilize in our by our college students. Let's look at what are the different types of these air pollution control devices which we can develop. Governments are introducing a lot of support for these things, but some of them that we can do it on our own hand. Let's look at some of them. Now, different techniques are used, especially a mechanical air pollutant control device can be developed in very easy techniques. See, for example, there is a device called gravity settling chamber. What is happening here? A contaminated gas which is entered to this chamber, and then the velocity is reduced inside the chamber. Automatically the dust hoppers are collecting the dust, and a clean gas passing through that. This is because of just controlling the velocity inside the chamber. We can utilize the basic principle of gravity, and we can collect the dust. What we can do through cyclone separator? What is happening here? It's a little bit a different technique. We all came to know that what is cyclone. It's like a tornado, right? So we are creating a minor version of tornado inside the chamber, and then this will help us to separate the contaminated air. It is called dry scrubber as well, because I'm coming back to discuss more about wet scrubber techniques, but this can be considered as a dry scrubber unit. Though this is a simple machine which we can develop even by our college students. What we can do with electrostatic precipitators? This is slightly electronics, electrical, and chemistry behind it. So what is happening here? This is our basic atomic theory, positive and negative. So once a gas passes through these electrostatic precipitation techniques, then electrodes particles become negatively charged because of these electrostatic condition inside the chamber. Then negatively charged particles attracted to positive charged plates, which is there in the hopper, the collection part. So automatically, by using this technique, we can collect the dust inside these hoppers. Then the next technique what we can use is called a wet scrubbers. This is again a different technique where we can use it as, instead of dry scrubbers used in cyclone separator, here we are going to use some wet scrubbing techniques. So wet scrubbers are generally use a liquid to wash the uh, um, we will use a water or a liquid to wash the dust and collect it separately, and again using a water treatment technique to separate the contaminants. Okay, thank you. Now wet scrubber, basically we can utilize an advanced version of wet scrubber which we introduced. I have seen that the same scrubber is there in Cochin rubber unit. They utilize this scrubber to control their air contaminants. What is happening here? Once a dirty gas is passing through this will wash, and then it is passing through different adjustable throats and floated elbow, and then it's making a cyclonic separator. Then the clean gas will go up and dirt will be collected as a slurry or a sludge in a colloidal form. That is what is used in wet scrubber. This is really effective technique what we have seen in many of the industries. I have seen the same technique there in VSCC, that is Vikram Sarabhai Space Center in Trivandrum. The same technique what they used. It's a very advanced technique, but it needs, what is the challenge is there? It needs water, and then you need further treatment for the slurry. In VSCC, they use this slurry for some of the clay purpose for the different type of industries, especially in Kollam district. Then the next technique which what we can use, the filtration technique, which is you will see in most of the hospitals or the laboratories. What is this technique basically called as? It's called HEPA filters. HEPA filters. HEPA is high efficiency particulate air filter. It can remove up to 0.3 micron size. So here a question comes, right? Why it's a 0.3 micron size? Most of the bacteria, the organisms are having a size of 0.5 microns. So recently one of the students asked me, what is the size of coronavirus? It's approximately 0.1 micron. So HEPA filter is not able to filter coronavirus in this case. But most of the microorganisms or bacterial contaminations or fungal contamination can be filtered through HEPA filter. That's what our three-layer mask or different other type of mask which you are using in during this pandemic situation, having low particle size. So the particle size of 3 micron, 3-layer micron filters. So basically, can admin can mute everyone, including myself. Can mute everyone. Dr. John.
Participants,
Dr.
I
John,
request you to turn off your audio.
Thank you. So So normal our filter mass which we are using during this COVID pandemic situation, mostly it's a 0.07 or 0.007 micron sizes. That's what we can filter this coronavirus during this through this. Now there is another technique. So mostly I did research on these techniques called adsorbers and absorbers. Adsorber is a different technique than absorber. What is the difference between adsorber and absorber? Absorbs means, like, you can just imagine a sponge which you use in your home to how it's absorb the water. That is the technique. So it is absorbed inside the material, where adsorption is happening only to the surface. So my research most into the adsorption techniques, that is on the surface control part. Here, adsorption are generally used in gaseous pollutants are removed from an air stream by transferring the pollutants to the solid surface, such as carbon bed or activated carbons, zeolites, polymers, and a lot of other things. I did certain researches through using banana stem. Most of the people are not aware about what is banana stem. It is a material waste from our banana. When after cutting the tree, then the rest is called banana stem. We call it as, in science terminology, we call it as gunna. So GENA. So this is the material which we utilize as a in place of activated carbon. Many people found, like, most of our rivers are contaminated. Some of the materials from African pal, we call it as, right? So that can be use it as a carbon bed. So this is a technique what we use in adsorption technique. So we'll collect the dirty gas and passing through this carbon bed and adsorbing all the contaminants in the bed and passing and getting a clean gas. The next techniques, we call it as absorption. Here what is happening, a transfer of gaseous pollutant from the air into the conducting liquid. Most of the time we utilize this as a water. Water will be our absorption liquid, and liquid serves as solvent by a chemical reaction. So here we pass through liquid and finally we are getting this. So that all about air pollution. And what we do with land pollution. Here, we have seen that different type of solid waste in our daily life. So industrialization made a lot of challenges in controlling the solid waste. So normally what we do, we will collect through buckets and go through an incinerator. Solid waste disposal techniques are utilizing in incineration. So it helps the waste to burn and release some flue gas out. So here in this technique, it's very important that we have to control the outlet of the stacks. Stacks are like chimneys. So the flue gas which is going out of the chimney, it should be properly controlled. So consider that part as an air pollutant. So that has to be controlled. Avoid PMs, allow small sizes of particulate matter, NOx, SOx, VOCs, everything has to be controlled once the material goes out. Use a proper control system when you use a incinerator. And many of our technique, what we are utilizing in our villages, the solid waste, we will put it, land reclamation. This is a wrong technique, and it may contain, I have seen that a lot of people put, along with the plastic, but it is absolutely illegal, and we are really damaging our earth by doing these techniques. So don't use that techniques, but use it as incinerators through a controlled structure. So all solid waste has to be collected and store it and pass through a proper treatment system. That is what we have to do for the land pollution. And what about noise pollution? noise we are least bothered, right? There is a specific law in 1986 introduced by Indian government called Environmental Protection Act, clearly says about what should be the noise level in industrial area, commercial area, residential area, and some of the silent zone like parliament compound and etc. So the noise level in our residential area should not go daytime 55 dB. This is what we, but I know even in my village, I have seen that a lot of mills used to make a high noise. So what we have to recommend the regulatory bodies or the politicians or the government authorities, I strongly recommend they have to look at these. For example, um, they can recommend melamine foam or glass core to reduce the sound, or a sound barrier. This is very important. I have been there in Zurich of Switzerland, and I have seen that all the hammer mills, all the mills which they utilize for the cereal pulses or powders, use a proper hammer sound barrier for the hammer mill. So if you pass through the mill, even you will not listen 20 dB noise. This is what we have to introduce in our villages, which is very important. Or any equipments which will make more than 75 dB should have a equipment closure. Laws are there, regulations are there in place, but people are not properly implementing in our laws. We introduced laws 30, 40 years back, but there is no proper implementation happening into the ground level. That is the challenge what we are facing in our country. And wherever there is a pump room, I have been there in Periyar Reservoir and Idiki Dam. Everywhere you will see the pump room produce more than 120 dB noise, but it is mandatory that they have to use a proper Sonax acoustic lining for a pump room. This is mandatory regulatory requirement as per Indian government law. The other type of pollution which I want to talk about, radioactive pollution. One of the important pollution which I kept in the last stage, that is water pollution. But radioactive pollution also very critical pollution which affect our daily life. Probably you heard about the atomic reservoir in Tamil Nadu, which makes a lot of problem with the nearby communities. But we all need energy, no doubt about it. But radioactive pollution has to be properly controlled. We cannot avoid. See, in any environmental pollutant, probably you cannot, because we need vehicles. So the pollution, air discharge from the vehicle has to be controlled. So what we can do in our daily life, proper check of your pollutions or pollutants and replace carburetor valves or whatever required. The same way, we cannot stop the natural resources of, or the atomic energy we cannot stop. So what do we have to do? We have to try our level best to control it. What is happening? Radon 222 is one of the critical radioactive isotope which you have seen in most of the nuclear power stations. So it's really affecting the entire chromosomes of the human being, and it gives a lot of damage to our health. So how to control this nuclear pollution is very important. Indian government clearly implement the regulations for nuclear power stations, but still the people living around nuclear power plants has to use proper control themselves. And uranium and thorium also different type of isotopes. Maybe you have studied in your periodic tables in schools that different types of isotopes for these type of heavy metals, right? So these areas has to be properly controlled. Now let's look at the water pollutions. This is a different world of story which we have to discuss in detail. Kerala State Pollution Control Board implemented the stringent regulations for drinking water, raw water, pool water, irrigation water, lake water, marine water, coastal water. Everything is having specific regulations in our state control board. Drinking water, for example, it talks about ISO Indian Standards 10500, which is introduced in 1991, which talks about drinking water quality. Different types of water pollutants are there in the water. So some of the water pollutants which we can discuss in today's presentation. The number one is biological, which we all know about. Most of us heard about E. coli. E. coli is a coliform bacteria, which you can find it in most of the areas of Kerala. What is the source of this E. coli bacteria? It is either coming from human or living organisms contaminations. So if there is a toilet nearby your well, then there is a possibility for E. coli to come. E. coli is one of the E. coli, the full form of E. coli is called Escherichia E. coli. It's a type of coliforms which is danger to human bodies. And other type of bacteria are like, Pseudomonas will be there, Listeria, different types of bacteria we will find, but most of the water are contaminated with E. coli because we don't have a proper drainage system for our toilet waste. And there are different other types of oxygen demanding waste which we have seen in different part of the studies in Kerala. And chemical contaminations also there, like fertilizers, toxic inorganic materials, persistent organic pollutants, and physical contamination, which you can physically see, that sediments, thermal pollution, and solid waste. When I was doing a presentation years back in Singapore about water, one of the students asked me a question: "Sir, what do you think in your experience? What type of pollution is more danger to human health?" I returned the question to the audience, somewhere around 300 people. Most of them replied to me saying that bacteria. It's not a physical forum. Otherwise, I could do an interactive session here. But I know that challenges what we are facing, mute, unmute, and everything. So I'm coming back to my answer. Most of the people are thinking that bacterial contamination or microorganisms are more danger to the human being. As a person who was having experience last 23 years on this food safety field, I always tell that chemical contamination is more danger. How come? If there is a bacteria enter into your body, just imagine we bought nowadays food delivery is common in our places, right? So if you order a biryani, wow, tomorrow is Friday, let's order some biryani. So get them biryani, we kept it in kitchen till evening, not in the fridge. So food has to be controlled. More than 1.5 hours, it should be kept at less than 6 degrees Celsius. But we don't know this concept. We kept it at the ambient temperature. Ambient temperature in Kerala is somewhere around 25 to 26 degrees Celsius nowadays. So it's a very good temperature for the bacteria to grow. So it's a good temperature for bacteria to grow. So, when you go for this same biryani in your dinner, it may be already populated with a lot of bacteria. So what will happen? A bacteria enter into your body. Your body start reacting either through stomachache, diarrhea, vomiting. Your body will show some sort of syndromes or symptoms to show that there is something, some foreign particles are, so foreign living organisms entered into your body. What about chemical contamination? Nothing will happen. If you eat a food, if you eat some, or if you drink a water which contains arsenic or mercury or hexavalent chromium, your body will never react. What will happen? After 5-6 years, you go to doctor, and doctor is saying that after all the inspection, he was confirming that you are a cancer patient. Just imagine a food safety issue by microbiological contamination and a chemical contamination, how different it is. In right side of my presentation, which you can see that different sources of water pollution. Most of us in Kerala using the government pipeline for drinking water. So from where this drinking water is coming? Mostly Periyar River. I'll come back to about more information about Periyar later. But you know, the residential, mines, combustion, vehicles, septic tanks, sewage treatment facilities, fertilizers used in agriculture and farms, and the waste which is coming from the livestock and the birds, the factories, sludge, landfills, atmospheric pollutions, all will contribute into water pollution. So the water which is necessity for our daily life is very, very contaminated nowadays. That is one of the main reasons that in after 2010 in India, we have seen a lot of cancer patients in our place, especially in the coastal region. I understood that coastal region starting from uh, uh, the Kovalam to Kasarkod beach, most of the cancer patients are coming from this area because we drink a lot of contaminated carcinogenic substance water. I would like to take you to an interesting subject which is not very common in Kerala, called Legionella. How it came? Because we got a beautiful stadium in Kochi and later in Karivattam. A lot of international matches are coming there in football and as well as in cricket. IPL or Indian Premier League for the football, whatever, a lot of foreign people are coming into our place and they are staying in the beautiful resorts and hotels in Cochin or in Trivandrum. And recently, many of these foreign people are infected by a bacteria called Legionella. So now Quality Council of India is going to be introduced a new regulation related to Legionella control in water systems. The regulation is going to be published in 2021. It was planned to publish in 2020, but due to the current pandemic situation, they extended into 2021. So I believe in October the law will come in place about Legionella. So what is Legionella? It is a naturally occurring bacteria found in most of the water systems. If there is a stagnant condition, a pipeline blocked, a water is not moving, there is a possibility for Legionella to grow. Nowadays, temperature in Kerala is very good optimum condition for the Legionella to grow because it needs a temperature 20 to 45 degree. Unlike other bacteria, Legionella no need oxygen because most of other aerobic bacteria need oxygen, but here he don't want bacteria. So it can seen in shower heads. Most of our house having shower heads. If there is a shower head which is not used for many days, there is a possibility for Legionella to grow. And it needs some sort of food source and prefer in stagnant conditions. Many of people are using ACs nowadays in their home. If your AC's filter is not properly cleaned, there is a possibility for Legionella to grow there. What you will feel if there is a contamination? If Legionella enter into your body, uh, it is very difficult to identify from a bacterial or viral fever. You will have a throat infection. So people will think, oh, I drink some cold water last night. I had an ice cream last night. That may be the reason for this throat infection. But actually, if it is Legionella, and if you give 10 days to grow Legionella in your body, then you are in danger. Very A lot of fatalities happen in Western countries because of this bacteria. So we have to be very careful about it. Some interesting factors are there. Mostly it's affecting the males. Don't ask me why there is no female. Mostly this is affecting males. All the studies are showing like that. And the fatality happened between the age 45 or above. And it's mostly affecting the smokers and or chronic respiratory or kidney disease patients and diabetics or cancer sufferers. So the people who all are in this condition, you have to look at your water systems used in your home or office and ensure that the water is free from Legionella. Either you can do a superchlorination or simply you can drain the water in frequent intervals. Don't keep any conditions for stagnant. And if you feel that you got a throat infection or a fever or body ache, go to doctor directly if you are in this age or in these conditions. This is very important information which I would like to pass, because most of the scientists or the people are not talking about Legionella because there is no regulation. But this is the information which I would like to pass to you. The new regulation is coming about this bacteria because a lot of fatality happened to people in Kerala, especially the foreign people who travel to Kerala during these international matches. Now, what we do in water quality checks, there are different techniques used in water quality, especially our pollution control bodies monitoring temperature, turbidity, conductivity, pH, DO, and a lot in a testing part. And I have seen that in Kakinad there is a water testing facility run by government. So if you want to do some testing, you can take a water sample in a sterilized bottle and go to this government lab and do it free of cost. You can do it. So for example, I'm representing a laboratory where we do around 14,000 different tests, and we cater clients from 21 different countries. And our accreditation certificates are equivalent to government certificates. So our credibility in terms of testing is quite high in market standards. Now, I believe I spend a lot of time for water pollutions. How we can do, or what our engineering students can contribute in terms of controlling these pollutants. There are a lot of challenges in this, but this is a treatment plan which you can develop and setting yourself in your own areas. So mostly our water intake water, unlike other countries, I'm sitting in a city called Dubai, where we don't have lake water or river water which gives easy way. Here we are using desalinated water from a sea water. So in Kerala, we can use the lake water, which you can utilize, because here you no need an RO plant. What is called RO plant? That is reverse osmosis plant, which remove the complete minerals. Here, what you can do, we can take any intake water, either from any river in Kerala, which is not very close to the coastal region, and go through a small filtration system to avoid the contaminants, solid contaminants, and passing through a filtration system, then settling in a tank, so that if any clay or other solid contaminants comes, will settle down, and then the upstream water will be collected, go through a chlorination, and then you can do coagulation, flocculation, and sedimentation. These are the basic treatment which is studied in standard 8th or 9th. So pass through these 3 treatment stages, and then go through a sand filtration technique and post chlorination to remove the chlorine, additional chlorine, and pass through a fluoridation, because in iodized, same like iodized salt, we have to add little fluoride in the water and pass through we can utilize for the residential or commercial purpose. This is a simple treatment plan which you can utilize in our area. What is Again, if there is waste, what do we have to do? I have talked about drinking water here mostly, how to get the drinking water. And we are currently, we are using, most of us are using the drinking water in bottled water. What is happening in bottled water? Uh, the bottled water units are using some raw water, passing through a pre-chlorination or a pre-treatment system, then passing through an RO plant to reduce the minerals. And if some people will use as substitute techniques, that means the same water will, the raw water will inject into the water to keep up the minerals. But here maybe you cannot control the minerals, right? Some of the, most of the bottles will show the mineral composition. For example, calcium will be 10 ppm, sodium will be 5 ppm. Ppm means parts per million, that is equivalent to milligrams per liter. So it will be there. So if you use bypass techniques, substitution techniques, you cannot control the mineral content in the water. So latest techniques, most of the treatment people are using the technique of adding minerals. Remove the complete minerals, adding minerals on your own standard and filling it out. There is a big challenge in drinking water nowadays. Because earlier people were using chlorination technique. There is two challenges in chlorination. One is your RO, reverse osmosis membrane, will damage if there is a chlorine enter into the membranes, because it's like a filter, right? And the other challenge, there will be smell of chlorine, which we don't like, right? So second stage, people start using bromine. Again, a lot of challenges in bromine. Then later treatment people introduce UV sterilization. It's only a light, but again there is a problem with the microorganisms. You cannot kill all the microorganisms in UV sterilization. Then the latest technique is used called ozone. Ozone, very easy to create. If you have electricity, if you have water, you can create ozone. What is happening? Ozone, we all know that oxygen is a molecule stage, O2. Adding an extra oxygen into this, create it as O3, that is called oxygen. So it is having a good disinfection capability and no smell. But there is a big challenge in this case. If you have a raw water which contains bromide, bromide is an inactive anion which we can drink. But when it becomes a sterilization with ozonization, then it will create a byproduct called bromate, BrO3 minus, which is highly carcinogenic, which is danger for human health. So we believe that bottled water is good for health, but if the treatment people are not treating it properly, it can create human health an impact. Now let's talk about effluent water treatment. Again, there is a lot of waste. Now we have a culture, where many of them are staying in the buildings. If you go to Thrissur or Cochin, either it's a Shawbaj city or riverside apartments, you will see treatment plant over there. So I have seen that a lot of new international companies are coming to Kerala to set up their effluent treatment, water treatment companies. So what is happening here? It's a very simple technique which you can introduce by our college students itself. A waste comes, solids removal, then a pre-treatment, pass through an aeration zone, settle it, pass through a sand filtration, and do a disinfection. Then this effluent can be utilized in many purposes. For example, you can use this water for agriculture purpose if the contaminants are very low. Here, I would like to take you again a small tour. Later I will do it. Another concept which is introduced very recently by Government of India called Green Building Concept or VOCs. California Department of Public Health Authority introduced this concept years back called LEEDs certification. This regulation also in place, and they are going to introduce in Delhi initially about this green building concept. What we are going to do here, we have very young, charming, dynamic students from civil department attending this session, and I'm sure that they will think about this point. What is happening? There are a lot of material used for this building, any building, starting from aggregate, soil, um, concrete, cement, paint, everything. Then comes into sealants, glues, wood, plastic, everything used, or including any structures. Everything can be, emit some sort of the organic compounds, especially the VOCs. So Government of India would like to introduce GBR, Green Building Regulation Act, by introducing, controlling these type of emissions. So VOCs are very critical, and it release a lot of organic compounds which is really damage human health. So I would like to extend your attention to next sessions. Probably think more about Green Building Regulation Act, which is still in Parliament now. A lot of discussions are happening, not yet implemented. But think about it. This is very important for the next generation. I'm sure that within next 5 years, many of students pass out from the college. Then you will see this act in place. As I mentioned earlier, there are certain standards which you can see introduced by Kerala State Pollution Control Board, talking about the drinking water quality standards. And you can see that, there is some desired limit. But if it is not possible to meet that standard, there is another standard. But very clearly mentioned that if desired limit is not able to achieve, then automatically there may be some health impact on your um, living organisms if we are not meeting the actual desirable limits. So you will get all this information from our websites. We are having Government of India or State Government of Kerala having very strong websites with all the information. Some interesting facts I have taken like 1 hour back. A live monitoring report from Kerala. You can see the carbon monoxide emissions of 1.5 hours back. See the red flags in Trivandrum and Kollam. He's having high emissions of carbon monoxide. Without a proper filtration system, if you pass through this area, this will really affect your body. You can find all these Kerala State, go to KSPCB, that is Kerala State Pollution Control Board websites, and you can monitor yourself what is happening in Kerala. Because all these factors, whether it's PM10, PM2.5, sulfur dioxide emissions, NOx, ammonia emission, ozone emission, all these information, including the BTEX, all this you can find out on direct website, because it's every 15 minutes they are updating the values. So these all are I believe basic information for today's session, because Dr. Joss gave me a clear timeline for 1.5 hours. So I believe I just crossed 1 hour 40 minutes now. Sorry, 1 hour 30 minutes now. But I would like to tell something before moving to the question and answer session. As a new generation, I'll always love to address the young students. And I always welcome my clients into my laboratories to see the facility. I always tell them, bring your children, because we love to educate them. They will see what is happening in a laboratory. How many food products are contaminated? what type of waters are contaminated, what type of materials you are seeing in your environment. Many of them are contaminated, even we don't know. So we would like to educate the students, because we strongly believe, Wimpy Laboratories strongly believe that sharing the education, providing the knowledge to the customer, and run the business. That is our basic knowledge. And I would like to take a quote of famous Einstein: once you stop learning, you stop growing. Always remember this, then you can continue your career in a better way. So um, in Kerala, we are drinking water which is generated from the Periyar River, and it is 300 kilometer starting from the Western Ghats till the Arabian Sea. 300 kilometer it's passing through, and adjacently around 250 medium or large scale industries and 2,500 small scale industries. All these are generating a lot of pollutions, and this water is contaminated. The government officials are trying to reduce the contaminations, but as a society, we are also having our own commitment to reduce the impact on our environment. So I request, I suggest, I recommend, as a new generation, you all to support our environment and let us overcome the challenges. Thank you for giving me an opportunity. I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Leave to the admin panel.
Okay, thank you, sir. Dear participants, you can share your questions in the question answer option or chat box of Zoom and YouTube live platform. We will convey the same to Chandrajit, sir. Okay, sir, we have one question.
Please.
Is there any artificial intelligence based techniques to analyze different forecasting performances of various pollutants?
Basically, artificial intelligence techniques are not in place, because still all the laboratories are running through the traditional techniques, which gives a lot of values. But there are continuous monitors are available to find out the pollutants value.
Okay, sir, one more question. Which software modeling system is best for identifying long-range transportation of air pollutants?
I have seen this question from one of the attendee, and I can answer it live because see, there is different softwares introduced in Delhi by the industries, the scientists based in Okla Industries, but many of them are having still challenges. So there is no certified software modeling system is in place. But Environmental Pollution Control Board, Environmental Pollution Association of USA introduced a continuous monitoring system to identifying long-range transportation of air pollutants, where you can monitor all the pollutants per seconds. And similar techniques are used by Kerala State Pollution Control Board as well. But still, no certified, materially certified software is not available till now. A lot of researches are happening in this industry, but still not yet.
Okay, one more question. What are the application of probiotics and their mechanisms of action in environmental management?
See, different type of probiotic techniques are introduced. If you give me another session later, probably I talk more about these probiotic techniques. But basically, a lot of catalyst used techniques are in place. And another one, bacterial treatment also they're in place. Because, for example, odor control, earlier techniques was to kill the bacteria, right? But nowadays we put specific organisms to kill the bacteria who generate the odors. So the same way, biotechnology departments introduced different type of genetically modified organisms to kill this type of bacteria and control the pollutants.
Okay. One more question. Is foreign direct investment a threat on environmental pollution?
I don't think so, because lot of international brands are ready to come to India, but we have our own political situation in the country. But many of the industries are managed by, for example, the Coca-Cola plant was managed by a foreign company called ETM, who manage all their pollutants control. But still, there are a lot of land contamination complaints raised. So it's totally depends upon the political or the government authorities who are ready to look at the foreign investment side. And I have seen another question from Shreyas Vinayan asking that has air pollution been solved anywhere? Very good question. I have seen that a city called Tashkent, it's in Caspian region, Uzbekistan, having very minimum pollutions. The reason is that same if you go to Japan, even before COVID or after COVID, or before we heard about COVID, they all use masks when they are going out, because that is the reason that bronchitis or asthma patients are very low in Japan. The same way, the people in these countries, Uzbekistan or especially in Tashkent, they are well aware about environmental pollution. So you will see very minimum pollutants, even though without a proper pollution control system. So the best solution is to avoid pollution. Best solution is to avoid pollution, but a control system, using control system, it is very difficult to control. You cannot filter the entire air in the world, right? It's very difficult.
Okay. Another question. What about PFAS compounds that are being released in our environment? How can we avoid them now?
See, again, this can be treated normally. These are the chemicals which generate, right? For example, PFAS is, if I won't remember, it's a different type of chemical compound, polyfluoryl alkyl substances. This is what I believe the questionnaire means. It contains different type of chemicals. All type of organic compounds will be there, which is alkyl substances, which we found, there is one of the famous alkyl compound which we have been seen in our studies called chlorphenabine. This is a different benzene type of compound which we have seen, and which found this is very limited in residential areas, but we found mostly into the industrial areas. It's basically a man-made chemical.
Okay, sir. Next question. Is air pollution mainly a local problem or can it travel long distances?
See, again, the studies are showing that depends upon the velocity of your emissions. For example, there is a chimney in one of the big industry. For example, an industry like cement, it is traveling up to 10 kilometers. Depends upon the size of the chimney and the velocity of the air released from the stack. But if it is a pollution from a vehicle which is traveling up to 15 meters normally. So it's all totally depends upon the type of emissions and its velocity.
Okay, next question. Like Singapore model waste management system, Can we dump ashes and remaining waste from incinerators to man-made island, which will not cause pollution?
See, Singapore, I have been there in Singapore for especially, and I have seen their treatment systems. They are having a different type of incinerators with the low flame. Normally, we use ashes, incinerations, like, just put the flame and generate the heat. But there, they put a low flame heat, so the emissions will be very limited and ashes content will be more. Normal incinerators are, reducing the solid waste 95%, but this one create 25% more. So 70 to 75% is only the waste gone. So this, they are using it for different techniques. I have seen the paper pulp industry used in Singapore. They utilize this the ashes and make it as a bud, a ash bud for the wall, filler of the wall, which is having high um, high strength, compressive strength of the material.
Okay, one more question. Is there a link between poor air quality and worse health outcomes from COVID-19?
Yes, here basically when you talk about COVID-19, as I told you, it's absolutely related with viral conditions. Everybody know that virus is a single nuclear substance, and it's basically related very close to the protein molecules only. But pollution can definitely, yes, 100% impact on human health conditions of COVID, because these virus like to go through the same area a pollutant pass through. In air pollution and COVID-19, a lot of studies in happening right now, because I have seen that one of the German lab is specifically studying about this topic, and they introduce some of the filtration system to avoid or reduce risk in hospitals who are treating for the COVID. So when you mention about COVID-19, we found a lot of other materials which is coming, like, ceramic tiles, or the paints, or the coatings, and table sheets, uh, glass frames. Many studies are happening nowadays, and which is coming even into our laboratory to test against COVID-19 resistance. So virucidal resistance is a brief topic, but a lot of studies are happening in this, and definitely this will reduce the impact of COVID-19 or similar virological impacts on our human health.
Okay, one more question. If we consider India becoming the pharma head for the whole world, how will it impact our environment?
Very hypothetical question, but if India become the pharma head of the world, in fact, India is a largest country who produce pharmaceutical products for the world. For example, the country where I am sitting here, we have even the 2 or 3 pharmaceutical companies, but still many of the raw materials are coming from India. Now, if you talk about a pharma, very limited contaminants are producing in pharmaceutical world, right, compared to any other industries. For example, an industry like a pulp industry, or an industry like a cement, or an industry like a paint. So whoever is producing these type of materials, really, and India is one of the largest producer of the various chemicals, the commodity or the bulk chemicals which is going through many of the areas, like even the Middle East or Far East. Far East, yes, China is also a largest producer, but Middle East or African countries or even to Europe, the chemicals which is coming from mostly from India, especially from Gujarat. So if we consider India becoming the pharma head of the whole world, uh, it is not going to make a huge impact in our environment, but mostly when you are talking about a chemical manufacture, a chemical processing industry, or a coatings or a cementitious products manufacture, definitely it will affect our environment.
Okay. Sir, one participant from our YouTube live have requested you to share more details on GBR Act.
Yeah, definitely, I can do that. I believe I have shown, or who can just post it to contact Universal Engineering College and get my information. I'm happy to share the information. And I'll pass these slides which I presented today. I can share it with the admin panel, and uh, they can share my contacts, where anyone can contact me in WhatsApp or in email. I'm happy to share it.
Okay. One more participant have requested you to give more details of opportunities of civil engineers in lab.
Wow, that's a good question. Um, when you talk about civil engineers, I'm sure that Dr. Jose will brief you in later stages. Civil engineers are integral part of the laboratories, even in our lab, because in most of the places, um, any building or even villa construction starts, the work start from the soil investigation. You have to go for drilling and find out what is the condition of the soil and the water in the ground, and based on that only, that how much floor that you can make. um, as I don't want to repeat it, but I'm sitting in a city called Dubai, where you will see some high-rise buildings. We are behind these type of high-rise buildings where we suggest them. Dubai is a land of desert. How these high-rise buildings are coming here? Because of you guys, because of the civil engineers. So not only starting with the soil investigation, after soil investigation comes each steps, um, like each concrete layer has to be tested. So who will test it? Our civil engineers, who is having good exposure with the concretes. So if a concrete cube comes, we do testing at 3 days of curing, 7 days of curing, 28 days of curing, then we'll certify the product. So civil engineers are having a good. So in early stages, one of my relative don't want to send his son for civil engineering. And then I asked you why? Because it's a evergreen subject, right? We cannot live without civil engineers in the world. So he was saying that no. See, in the entire world, the temperature is rising, and I don't want my son to go in the sun and really, work in warm conditions. I I was really surprised, but nowadays civil engineers are getting jobs. Not only the architectural engineers, civil engineers are getting jobs where they can work within the lab, and who will certify the construction materials. Yeah, sure. There is opportunity there in the lab everywhere. Civil engineers are integral part of the lab who will do construction material testing.
Okay, thank you, sir. We have covered all the questions. Now we are at the end of the webinar. I invite Mr. Febin Raju, Assistant Professor from Electrical and Electronics Engineering Department, to deliver vote of thanks.
Okay, thank you, Minamis. Okay, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Yes.
Okay, so it gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this webinar. So first of all, I would like to thank our resource person, Mr. Chandrajit AV, who honored this function and gave us a clear idea about the current challenge, that is the challenges in environmental pollution and how to control this scenario. So thank you, Chandrajit sir. Next, I would like to thank our beloved principal, Dr. Jose K. Jacob, who has always been offering a great support in all our events. Thank you, Jose sir.
Thank you.
And I would like to acknowledge my gratitude to the management of Universal Engineering College, who provides us all the motivation, guidance, and encouragement for all the activities in our college. I'm also very grateful to Ms. Bindu Mol, HOD of Civil Engineering Department, as well as Ms. Remya VR, HOD of Electrical Department, who helped us to organize this event. And finally, I am expressing my sincere gratitude to all other faculties as well as all the students who attended this webinar, and also hope to see you all in the future events also. Thank you, everyone.
Okay,
Thank
Chandri
you,
sir.
sir.
Yeah, Chandri sir, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time, valuable time with us.
Okay. We appreciate you all for being with us. Once again, thank you. Stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
See you. Bye-bye.